Focus on customers. We have to open better to close more. And I am sorry to tell you this, but it's not about you. We love to talk about ourselves and our homes and our products, and we're so much better than that builder down the street, and we do this behind the walls, and you just don't understand what it's like. And yet I hear builders doing this, and I always smile because I know you take so much pride in your work, and that's what makes you so good at what you do. But when we're meeting those customers, it's all about them. If we open better with them and we truly understand them and don't start talking about ourselves and talking about our product right away, let's find out what's important to the customers. And that's what a good salesperson is able to do. In new home sales, this is not car sales. This is not door-to-door sales. You cannot slam and jam, as I like to say. This is a relationship. These people are going to be connected to you for the next 3, 4, 6, 9 months, maybe longer for some of you, depending on where you're building. It could be that it's a year or even more if you're in really high-end product. We need to start that relationship off with a good, solid foundation, just like we do with our homes. So focus on those customers. Make sure your sales team is focusing on your customers. This is the critical path. If you've been in this industry for more than 5 minutes, you have probably heard the terminology, the critical path. It was coined by the late, great Dave Stone back in the 70s, actually. And the critical path is a process. It is a process that comes from manufacturing. It also comes from the medical field. So if you think about a surgical room, they have a critical path, and it really is critical because it's life or death there. They know that they must follow the path in this order in order to achieve a favorable outcome and not have mistakes. Well, that's exactly what new home sales is. We have a path. There is a path for new home sales. In manufacturing, you could think about it for an automobile. If you built an automobile the way we build homes, we build them from the ground up, right? So that only makes sense. You can't put a roof on something if you don't have anything to hold it up. You can't put walls up if you don't have a good foundation. However, if you think about a car going through the manufacturing line, the thing that touches the ground is the tires, right? So, and the tires go on the wheels. Well, those are the things that are actually added last. So in manufacturing an automobile, we know where we need to start, and it goes down the assembly line, and we build on it, we build on it, and we build on it. And then as it comes off the assembly line, that's when the wheels and the tires are going to go on. So knowing when to put those things on is very, very important. Your sales team should be, and again, if this is you, you need to understand this, because you cannot replicate something that is not process driven. That's called just winging it. And when you wing it, you're going to get sporadic results. You're not going to know what went right, and you're not going to know what went wrong. And you're going to lose a lot of sales. Now, you will still get sales because even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? We've all been told that. But in critical path selling, it is truly relationship based. And it is about putting that customer first. We're going to get to know them. I've given this thing categories because I teach this to general realtors who are very unfamiliar with this concept. But when I break it into these 3 categories, it seems to make a little more sense to them. Getting to know them, that's the meet and greet. That's the rapport building. That is your first impression. It's about them. Find that connection with them on a personal level. Has nothing to do with product, has nothing to do with what they want to accomplish or why they came in today or how many square feet they're trying to build or what their price point is. We're going to stay completely away from that. Even if they bring it up, we're going to acknowledge it and then go right back into trying to drive that personal relationship. Then, after we feel like we've made some rapport, they're starting to lean in. We're starting to lean in. We're kind of finishing each other's sentences a little bit. Our rhythms kind of align as we're talking. Our cadence starts to align. So we don't have one person talking really fast and one person talking really slowly. You're kind of in sync now. That's when we move into the discovery. And discovery is where we're learning what is it that they are trying to accomplish in their home. How are they going to live in their home? Who is going to live in their home? Do they entertain? Do they cook? How many cars do they have? Do they have people who are going to be living there part-time? Do they have people who may be living there in 5 years who aren't living there now? Failure to launch pad? Or maybe an elderly relative, the in-law suite, needs that they may not anticipate that they are going to need in the not too distant future. Many of us are caught in that sandwich generation where we still have kids at home and we're taking care of aging parents at the same time. So that need, that multi-generational living is maybe not something they've considered unless you're asking those questions. But if you're just asking, how many square feet are you looking for? What's your price range that you want? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How many, how big is the garage? Do you have land? Have you been pre-approved? How sterile is that? Instead, if we're talking to them about their vision for a home and how they want to live in the home, all of a sudden we have a lot more possibilities. We can look at many of our different floor plans and find the way that works for them instead of taking the catalog of floor plans out or clicking through it on the wall. If you're really fancy and you have the big TV with the interactive floor plans or the virtual tours, great, but we shouldn't start there. That's where we end up after we have a good understanding. We go, I think I have the right floor plan for you. We should only be showing 1, 2, 3 at the most. Floor plans. If we're going through your catalog of options and floor plans, we're doing it wrong. That's when you know you're doing it wrong. That's what we're looking for with your salespeople, that they really make those kinds of connections with people. Then, once they understand what the buyer is looking for, that's when we start presenting solutions. That's when we start talking about our floor plans and the solutions that we have to fill that buyer's need. We'll present those solutions to them. Then we're going to demonstrate them by taking them out. If you have that home available in the field somewhere, maybe it's your model, maybe it isn't. I don't care personally if they ever see your model home. And I know models are very sacred. Don't freak out on me. I get that. Models should be the dream place. That's where we come back after we figured out what the floor plan is that they're looking for, to look at what all the possibilities, where we can decorate it, where we can think about what we might want in the kitchen, what kind of flooring we might want, and they can start trying on the finishes for size, unless that model happens to be the right floor plan for them. If you don't have it available, then we're going to walk through it we're going to do a blueprint walk or a print walk where we look at it and figure out if that's going to be right. Then we're going to go out on site. There is an old adage in this business that when you site, you write. If you're a builder who has land and you are not doing scatter site on your customer's lot, then you want to go have your salespeople out there. They should have cones. They should have a 200-foot measuring tape. They should be able to measure off and put those cones out and have that customer working with them and experiencing this whole thing on the home site. There are so many beautiful stories about sitting out on home sites, visualizing it. I was in Phoenix, in a village outside of Phoenix that you may have heard of. It's called Estrella. There's going to be 50,000 rooftops in Estrella. And this is a national developer that builds out there. They had a village called Serenity, and it looked out on the Estrella Mountains. And we went up, there was this one home site. Being from Florida, we like green, right? We have a lot of beautiful, lush landscape here. It's Phoenix. It's brown. There's a lot of brown. So for me, I'm looking at this home site going, why is this home site so much more expensive? It literally backs up to a rock. There was a giant boulder right behind where the home site finished. And there was a cactus. So there was one green thing. It was a cactus. But I just couldn't figure out why this particular home site was so much more than the rest of the home sites. Well, we were working with this lady who was bringing her family. They were all going to live in different villages within Australia. They were all retiring from the military, and it had been her dream since she and her husband had retired that they were going to get everybody back together from all the 4 corners of the globe, and they would be able to spend time with their grandkids. And she wanted to build a big home where all the grandkids could come and play. Well, this was the only home site that would accommodate that. So we went out, we had to step over our silt fence, and we walked out onto that home site. It happened to be around 5 o'clock in the evening. Now, at 5 o'clock in the evening, from the vantage point of that community, you had an incredible view of the Estrella mountain range. And if you haven't spent any time out in Phoenix, most of us think of like Camelback and it's just rocks, right? But the Estrella range does have some vegetation on it. Because of that, as the sun starts to get lower in the sky, the mountain range lights up and it becomes bright orange, and then purples start to creep in where all of that vegetation is. And it does these beautiful colors. It's this gorgeous spectrum of colors, and it really puts on a show every night. So whenever I was out there, I always wanted to make sure I finished my day at that particular community so I could view that spectacle every night, because it was just breathtaking. And I would literally just stand there and watch it for like 15 or 20 minutes. Well, that was happening as we were showing this lady this home site. And we all just stood there, probably not saying anything for a good 5 or 10 minutes. Not a word, just in silence, just in awe of watching that. And I looked over to that lady and she had a tear coming down her face. And she looked at me, and then I, of course, had to have a tear coming down my face. And I said to her, I'm like, if you're not going to buy this home site, I didn't know I was in the market to live here, but I'm going to buy it if you don't. And she cracked up. We both were just laughing. She's like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I envisioned. That's the power of going out and showing those home sites. So if you have a sales team and they're not taking advantage of that, get them out there and show them how to do that. But that demonstration includes homes, it includes home sites, it includes amenities. Many of you sell in master plan communities with incredible amenities, or even traditional neighborhoods with really nice amenities. If your salespeople aren't showing those amenities and really getting your buyers engaged in them, then why did we put them in the first place? If they're a selling feature, then we need to be experiencing them with our buyers. We shouldn't be rushing them through this process. That's going to allow us to narrow down to that selection for that one of a kind. And then we're going to assist the buyer to achieve their dreams. We're going to help them to own it by overcoming any objections and closing the sale. And I just think it's rude to spend all this time getting to know someone, go through this whole process, and then not invite them to own one of your homes. How rude is it? I mean, I just really can't think of another word after all of that. If you don't ask them to go ahead and move forward, they may think, wow, they must not really want me to live here. So that is the critical path. That's normally a 3-day class that I just gave you in about 15 minutes. A whole lot more nuance in here, but I wanted to make sure that you understood at least a little bit about this, because it is so important whether you're the one doing the sales or your sales team is the one doing the sales.